Malik Nabers, Giants receiver, 6th overall pick in the draft, on the Pivot podcast, talking about the wager he has with division rival Jayden Daniels, former teammates at LSU, now division rivals. Daniels in Washington, Malik Nabers in New York. They've got a wager on which of the two will be Offensive Rookie of the Year. Here is Malik Nabers.
Just having that guy in my corner, it's been the best. So, going against him, it's gonna be fun. We got a bet going for Rookie of the Year. Right. whoever loses gotta pay. I think it's 10,000 cash. Oh boy! So, yeah, it's that's
light.
Man, he wasn't supposed to tell nobody. It's supposed to be. We got a little something going on.
What's the bet though? Is it money or is it what?
Yeah, it's money.
How much?
10. Who won Rookie of the Year?
That's nothing for y'all now. You guys.
I mean, he put it out there, so it's like
that ain't really.
I can't say he capped. So.
Wait a minute. Is this Malik Nabers on the Pivot podcast, or is it? Oh, it's both of them. Okay, I was distracted. Both of them. Sorry, I was distracted. So, I was distracted by refreshing my memory about the horrifying text I sent yesterday while I was still under the influence of propofol. They better be careful here. Haven't we spent the last year hearing about the suspensions imposed on players for gambling? Is this not gambling? If they're seriously wagering $10,000 among themselves on who's Rookie of the Year, did I miss something here, Charean?
I don't think you did, Mike. And, as Jayden Daniels said, he wasn't supposed to put it out there in public, and that's what Malik Nabers did. So here we are. So I would suspect that they will be hearing from the NFL saying you can't do this. But, why would you even say that publicly? Why not just say, we have a friendly bet on who's going to be Rookie of the Year? Which one of us is going to be Rookie of the Year? But he didn't do that. He put it out there, 10,000, and Jayden Daniels confirmed that it's $10,000 bet.
Here's the problem. And this all traces back to the fact, and look, I guess I can claim, if I get in trouble, that I'm still a little bit under the influence of the propofol. And based upon my text messages yesterday, I would use that as Exhibit A to prove it. This is what happens when 6 years ago this month, very soon to the anniversary, when the U.S. Supreme Court opens the floodgates for any and all states to adopt legalized sports betting programs in their states. At the time, Nevada was the only one that was allowed to do it. PAPSA was the federal law that was put in place to prevent any other state from doing what Nevada does. That was determined to be unconstitutional after a challenge launched by New Jersey to the federal law. It violates the states' rights portions of the Constitution. Each state has to decide whether or not it's going to do this. Each state should have the right to do it. And the fact that Nevada can do it made it suspect. So that gets thrown out. Any and all states can do it. The NFL had a decision to make. And the way that the man whose name is inscribed on every football continues to explain it is, once the Supreme Court did that, we have to be involved in that space. Once the Supreme Court makes it legal, we have to be involved. Well, it was legal in Nevada and you weren't involved in that space. You fought against widespread legalization of gambling. And then when the floodgates open, the cover story is we must be involved. And the latest twist on that came on the Friday of draft weekend when he was on with Pat McAfee, and he said, well, we need to partner with these companies that have access to the information that basically, and he didn't say it this way, but they want FanDuel and DraftKings and BetMGM and others to rat on the players who are using directly or indirectly the apps to place wagers that violate league policy. So the NFL has decided, under what I think are very flimsy excuses, to just maximize their cash. Sponsorships, data transactions, and the dirty little secret, allowing owners to hold up to 5% equity in any company that operates a sports book. That's where the money is. Owners are allowed to be 1/20th of the house. The house is where the money is in gambling, folks. If you didn't know that before, you must be one of the ones who has possibly lost your house thinking you're going to get rich playing this game that is rigged against you. That's the way it is. Sorry if that offends anyone, but that's the truth. So what happens when you create this environment where the NFL is grabbing every dollar it can, and it's FanDuel this and DraftKings that everywhere you turn, and everyone's talking about betting, and everyone's betting, you're going to have this kind of casual, nonchalant $10,000 bet. Before 2018, that never would have been said out loud because everybody knew gambling was illegal. Now it's legal, but there's these weird rules that apply to players, and here's guys who are coming in fresh, who haven't even signed their contracts yet, but are under the auspices of the National Football League and 345 Park Avenue. This is a problem. This is a problem for them, and this is a problem for the league. They've created this environment where guys just think things are okay because everyone they know is doing it, and these guys grew up doing it. From the moment they turned 21 or younger than that, as we've learned in some states, they've got their apps, and they're betting, a lot of them. So to them, it's no big deal. They've grown up in this new world. The fact, and I'm not trying to get them in trouble. They're the ones who said it. This is indicative of the problem the NFL has created for itself because nothing, folks, forced the NFL to get into the gambling business. The Supreme Court allowing every state, if it chooses to do so, to have a sportsbook operation does not force the NFL to do anything. What the NFL could have done, Charean, I'll shut up here in a second. What the NFL could have done is said, even though it's legal in every state, we reject it. We encourage and demand all teams to reject it. We prohibit all investments in sportsbook operations. We prohibit any sponsorships with sportsbooks. We are not doing business in this space, period. And for any of our players who touch that third rail, there will be hell to pay. You will be banished for life. We are anti-gambling as a business. They could have done that. They chose not to. You know why? One path equals no money. The other path equals a lot of money.
Yeah, it's as simple as that, Mike. It all boiled down to money, and they can make a lot of money getting in bed with these gambling sites, and that's what they did. That's what they chose to do. So they opened the floodgates to this. They opened this up to exactly what we've seen. And you made a great point that this is how this generation has grown up. They've grown up of this being okay. This is what we do. This is fine. And so there's no real problem saying we have a 10,000 bet on who's going to be offensive rookie of the year. So the NFL, it has only itself to blame for this. And we're going to see more and more of this in the NFL. And I think we're going to see more and more of this in the NCAA. I don't even think we've touched the iceberg there, but I think they've probably got a real problem that they're just kind of brushing under the rug at this point instead of dealing with it. At least the NFL has some kind of thing in place where they can get notification when guys do bet. But as we all know, some probably have slipped through as well and used other names or whatever to make bets on the NFL or other sports or whatever it is. So I do think they have a real problem with gambling. I think gambling is probably the number one problem in college football and the NFL right now that they haven't properly dealt with.
First of all, you know, since you are a Texas A&M legend, if you're going to do the money sign, you got to do it with both hands. I mean, you can't do it with one hand. You got to do proper homage to Johnny Football. Okay. Second of all, we all like to have a routine. And my routine, even the day after being under the influence of propofol, consists of getting up at 6 a.m. or a little bit before that, because a lot of times I just wake up within the half hour before 6 o'clock, make a cup of coffee, have a little something to eat, turn on Morning Joe on MSNBC, look at some of the emails calling me a communist for watching Morning Joe, and also try to post a story. I have one story that I want to get posted before it's time to hop in the shower and get ready for the show. The story this morning was about Shohei Ohtani's former interpreter, Ippei Mitsuhara, pleading guilty yesterday to bank fraud and filing a false tax return and facing up to 33 years in prison. Why would I write about it in PFT? Because these non-football sports gambling stories are cautionary tales for what the NFL may be facing. And I feel like there is a ticking time bomb. No, there isn't just one. There's an entire minefield. I'm going to mix metaphors here, but bear with me. There's a minefield of ticking time bombs that are going to start going off. We saw it last year with the NFL on the simplest of propositions. Guys using their phones to place bets because everybody else is doing it. It started with Calvin Ridley, and it continued last year with guys who made the mistake of not standing out on the sidewalk. Think of how stupid this is. Stupidity comes from these inconsistent, hypocritical approaches that companies take. Oh, you can gamble as long as you stand outside the facility. It's like taking a smoke break. I'm going to walk outside, and I'm going to make sure I cross the street so there's no doubt I'm not standing in the lobby. If I'm standing in the lobby, it's an affront to the integrity of the game. If I go outside and cross the street, I can bet all I want on other sports. We learned that last year, what happened to Jameson Williams and others. Guys get ensnared accidentally in this minefield of ticking time bombs that the NFL has created for a cash grab. And now we see them in other sports. Jalen Porter, what happened with him? Banished from the NBA for influencing his underprops. An extreme no-no. But for the grace of God goes the NFL. It feels like it's just a matter of time before somebody does that. And when you have, I think this is the most troubling thing about the Nabers and Daniels comments. And this is not about them. They are the products of the environment they grew up in. And they grew up, think about it, they're 21, 22 now. They were 15 or 16 years old when all of a sudden it's open season on gambling. And it's everywhere. And it's normal. It's natural. There's no stigma anymore. More and more of these guys that are coming into the NFL are nonchalant and casual and just accepting. It's like, oh, wait. So, I wonder at the scouting combine, when do they talk to these guys for the first time? I'm going to find that out. I'm going to email Brian McCarthy, the chief NFL spokesman, during the break, if I remember, and there's a chance I'll forget. But I'm going to ask them, when do they get their first gambling education? When do you bother to tell these guys what the rules are? Because somebody didn't tell Malik Nabers and Jayden Daniels, you can't be betting $10,000 among yourself on who's going to win Rookie of the Year. You just can't do it. And it's amazing to me, and I don't know who else has chimed in on this. Because, you're being the hall monitor. Look, I'm the guy that's trying to keep the bad shit from happening. I'm the guy that's trying to be the conscience for the NFL while it's too busy. I always think of that machine that they would have on game shows where you go in and cash is flying everywhere and you're just grabbing the cash out of the air and stuffing it in your pockets for 30 seconds. That's what the NFL is. They're too busy grabbing the cash to take a step back and say, should we be worried about this stuff? Should we be doing more about that? Just go ahead and grab the cash. Grab the cash while it lasts. We'll worry about the other stuff later. That's no way to run a business, National Football League. So get mad at me if you want. I don't care. Audience, if you don't like it, I'm sorry. These are questions somebody needs to be raising, and nobody's raising them. What is the NFL going to do about this when you have two of your top new incoming players casually talking about betting $10,000 among yourself? You have a problem, NFL, and you better fix it. And the problem isn't how much money can we stuff in our pockets. The problem is we are corrupting this sport from the inside by embracing something that we're telling our players you shall not do. That is a mess that you've made. Are you going to clean it up, or are you going to keep stuffing money into your pockets? That's the question.
Yeah, my first thought when I heard this, Mike, was, okay, they haven't been talked to yet about gambling, obviously, and I did wonder when that conversation takes place. I know they used to have the rookie symposium. I don't think they have that anymore, do they?
No, they don't. It costs too much money. It costs too much money.
Right.
See, when you're stuffing the money in your pockets, you don't want to be spending the money out of your pockets. It costs too much money to bring them all to Canton and do it the right way. So they do it. They do it on their own. They do it on their own devices. But think of how much. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but think of how much more impactful it is to bring them all together. Hey, they could even play Top Golf beforehand.
That was my point. When you bring them all together at the rookie symposium, then it's the NFL addressing them all at once, the commissioner talking to them. That to me is more impactful than doing it as a team when they're sitting in there half awake during a meeting with whoever's giving this talk to them on these different subjects. I think at the rookie symposium, they listen and they're alert and they're in there with all the other rookies and the commissioner's in there and we got to pay attention because the commissioner's here. He didn't go to all 32 teams to address them on the dangers of gambling and other things. But at the rookie symposium, it's very simple to catch their attention and make a point and make several points to these guys. So I think that's way more impactful than the way they do it now. I think they do need to spend the money to do that.
He could go to all 32 teams if he wanted to. I'm not going to make the guy's schedule. But, you know, the NFLPA executive director visits all 32 teams, maybe every other year. I don't know, maybe before his contract's up. I don't know. But yeah, it goes to who your constituents are. If these are the people who vote on your job, you're going to go visit them. And my guess is the commissioner will go visit the owners because they're the ones who determine his fate. But the player's really not the same. But if you want to send the message, how about just like a video? I don't know. And that's another question I'll ask the league if I remember. What does the current rookie symposium consist of? What comes from the league? How much is mandatory? What comes from the team? This is important because you've already got two prominent players who have slipped through the crevices on the question of whether or not they're allowed to bet $10,000 between themselves on which guy is rookie of the year. It really is astounding. And what's even more astounding is that should be top story everywhere. That should be setting off alarms. But for most of us who cover it, we've become desensitized. That's the problem. We've all become so desensitized to gambling that stuff that would be, holy crap, they can't do that. For a lot of people, it's just not going to register because it's like gambling is fine now because everybody's doing it. So NFL, you got a problem. You got a problem. And it isn't how many of these dollar bills can we cram into the pockets of our suit. The problem is how many issues are we going to have later. They're going to call into question the integrity of our sport and, again, cause it to rot from the inside out. Their approach, and Charean, you asked the question because I wasn't invited to the invitation-only, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, bring me the broomstick of the Witch of the West press conference. You asked the question, what are they noticing by way of concerns as it relates to the integrity of the game? And they act like they don't hear anything. Well, it's remember the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. They're not paying attention because we're on the front lines, and during football season, we hear about it all the time. Anytime something weird happens, what's the first reaction now? The fix is in.
Yeah, fix is
At
in.
some point, if they don't clean this up, they're going to pass the point of no return, and they're going to do irreversible damage to the sport.
Yeah, and they have an opportunity to do that, Mike, and they need to do that, and they need to go back to having the rookie symposium. And I think it's more important than ever now with everything going on, particularly gambling. But there are other issues too, obviously, that they need to address, and they need to address those now.
Well, that is a jam-packed first segment, and we have covered plenty of topics. Not as many as Chris and I managed to cover in like 5 minutes yesterday, where we were ricocheting all over the place, but still, a lot of food for thought. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.